Hello everyone, I am Rupam, founder and CEO of Aculi Labs Private Limited, creator of Life First, and author of the book Intimacy Laws for Men, Volume 1, The Birth of Lugal. Welcome you all to yet another episode of Intimacy Laws. And so far, in this series of initial episodes, we have been looking at the theory of various dynamics of human relationship. So far, we have understood what is relationship, what is objectification, what are classes and objects, what are properties, functionalities, how human relationship is quite similar with your programming. We have understood how energy works, what are the difference between feelings and emotions. And in this episode 7, we are going to learn about a very important aspect of the relationship called boundaries. Now, we already have understood a bit of energy management in our previous class, a previous video, where we understood how two humans create an electrical energy that can be used for any production or any any creative work, just on the model of the galvanic cell. Now, when we talk about the boundaries, everybody understands what is a boundary. For example, your home, I'm sure you must be living in 1 BHK or 2 BHK apartment or house or 3 BHK, and you have different rooms. For example, kitchen, bathroom, bedroom, study room, and so on and so forth. Now, imagine that your drawing room is so good that you decided that okay, the drawing room is so beautifully organized. Why can't we just have everything over here? So you build kitchen, bathroom, bedroom, everything along with the drawing room, and there is no doors, no separation. So the same place where you sleep, there is a bathroom beside that, and there is the kitchen beside that, and there is your study room. Now imagine such a room where there is no separation between these different places of your home. Would that be functional? And let's say two of you stay there. Would you be comfortable? One side you have the kitchen, and just adjacent to it you have a toilet, and there is no separation. It doesn't work in that way, isn't it? That's why understanding boundary becomes so very important in the context of the relationship. Now, for example, you wear your clothes, that acts like the boundary between your body and the external world. You don't intend everybody to look at your body, do you? Because you preserve it for your intimate partner, for the one that you desire, for the one that you have an intimacy with. This is quite easy. For example, if you are sleeping in a bedroom, if you are in your home, you feel safe because nobody from outside can just come and disturb you. But imagine those who are homeless and who stays outside. They don't have any control, right? People may throw pennies at them, people may just put water on them, police may come and disturb them. Once you are open in the public, you have no control over your life, isn't it? You are then on the mercy of other people's understanding of what they should do and should not do, and you cannot always rely on the other people's understanding. When you are in the street, you are in the vicinity of the street dogs. The street dogs may disturb you, street dogs may bite you, police, other people, anything. So when you come back home, close the door, you feel safe. That's the boundary. In real world, everything is so interconnected and intertwined, and there are so much randomness and chaos that you cannot always rely in an open environment. You have to have a very well defined, well functional internal world, and then that internal world communicates with an external world, and then the internal world becomes meaningful to the external world becomes meaningful to the internal world. Then of course when you have your home, other people comes, but you decide who comes and who do not. So a boundary is a separation of an internal world with the external world, and that separation ensures that the internal world is well functional such that it can be of meaning to the external world. So for instance, you are cooking in the kitchen, right? You do not want everybody to stay over there. You want your peacefulness, loneliness while you are cooking the food. So the kitchen boundary ensures that you can comfortably do that. For example, you are working with your software or software development. You do not want other people to disturb you. There is a boundary. You say no to people while you are working. So a boundary is a separation of the internal world from the external world, and a boundary is the way everything works. For example, the basic fundamental unit of life is a cell. A cell has a nucleus, cytoplasm, okay, and then it has got a cell membrane or cell boundary. Through the boundaries, cell at times allows different chemicals, for example, minerals and vitamins, water, and if required, cell membrane removes the permeability. So the water or other products do not, or other substances do not get inside the cell. Also, when there is an internal functioning, any internal functioning is being done with energy, right? So you have to have energy, and you cannot produce energy. We know the law of thermodynamics. The energy transfers from one place to another place. So you are essentially relying on the external world for your energy. For example, solar energy, energy coming from other partners, energy coming from food. So within a boundary, it requires to have mechanism to get energy from outside. Then it has to produce something. If you don't produce something, then you are meaningless for the external world. So when this internal separated, there is a boundary outside this internal unit. So the internal unit must take energy from outside, function, create something, and give that to the outside world. A part of it, it can keep it to itself and then give it to the outside world. And in the process, it will also have reminiscence of the process that it should send out of the internal world. So if you consider your body to be a single unit, then you have your body's boundary, which is your physical body. You intake energy in terms of food, you digest it, you keep the body survived, and then based on that, you do something meaningful, which is important or which is relevant for the others. And then whatever is reminiscence of your taking food and processing them for the energy, that goes out through your toilet. That's how we function. And because any human dynamics is also based on, any human relationship is also based on the fundamental laws. This is also true for any relationship. So we understand what is our boundary. We use dress as the boundary to separate between our body and the external world. We take food as energy inside the boundary. We do certain mechanics inside the boundary, which is utilization of the energy, keeping the internal world functioning. And then we use that energy to produce something. It can be a music that you can produce, it can be certain analysis that you can produce, it can be anything which is meaningful for the outside world, so that outside world can share its energy or food with you. Right? Okay. Now up to this it is fine. You understand that the school has a boundary, your workplace has a boundary, you just cannot go and sleep in the workplace. So every system has got an internal processing, an internal functionality, protocols, and a boundary. Not everybody can enter into your office, not everybody can enter into your home. So you have a rule whom to permit through that boundary. You permit your friends and relatives through the boundary of your home. Your office permits only those who are employed with the office or who are coming from outside with an prior appointment to enter into that office. It just doesn't allow everyone to come into the office, right? So let's recall, a boundary is the wall or is the separation between an internal world and an external world. Every functional unit must have an internal world and a boundary. Every functional unit needs energy from outside. So the cell boundary, so within that system there should be a rule as how to get that energy within. And after you get that energy, you cannot just keep that energy. You have to produce something, because the external world is sharing its energy with you. So you take that energy, produce something. Out of that production, you also use yourself. And then you give that back something to the external world which is meaningful for the external world. If you try to look into the system, every system works in this way. For example, a startup company, you need funding. So a startup is a small unit. There may or may not be a definite office place, but you create a system. So that system requires funding. This funding is the energy. When the funding comes in, a lot of it is used by the founders to give salary to their people. All the functional units within the functional unit of startup. And then some part of that energy, which is money, is stored. Some part of that money is then invested into building something meaningful which the external world wants but doesn't have. The same way human body works. You eat food, some part of it gets stored as fat, some part of it is immediately used as glucose, some part of it is kept for the intermediate use, which is carbohydrate, and some part of it is a very intense energy unit, which is protein. So every system which is functional works on the same principle. There is an internal unit of operation separated by a boundary. This internal unit of operation has its own system. So when you are raising fund as a startup founder, you are not really telling how you are functioning, who is doing the coding and everything. And nobody can understand that. There is a whole lot of processes, whole lot of things that is been going on within that unit. The external world is interested to know what is the amount of energy that you are going to take and what is the output that you are going to give. And if the output is multiple times more valuable than the energy that you are consuming, then you are valuable to the outside world. Now, if we consider this principle into a relationship, we understand how humans operate. Now we also understand now that the relationship is also like an engine, also like a machine. It has two ends, your end and your partner's end. And a relationship is same whether it's a teacher-student relationship, whether it's a husband-wife relationship, brother-sister relationship, daughter-father relationship. In every aspect, there are two ends. They are exchanging energy in such a way that there is a current, and that current is keeping that relationship alive. And if you are not creating anything meaningful for the external world with that relationship, then it is non-functional. Let me repeat again. Whomsoever you may be having a relationship with, you may say that this is selfless. I'm doing my responsibility. We also now know that if you are performing your responsibility, then you are meaningless and needless to the society, because you cannot keep on doing the responsibility, as we will stop feeling. Coming back, whomsoever you may be having a relationship with, you may be having a relationship with your mother. That relationship then has to be considered as an entity, just like a startup, just like a functional cell, because now it's a complex organism. There are two cells, so you will function smoothly, your mother will function smoothly, right? Then both of you function. So there will be your boundary, your mother's boundary, and there will be a part which will be like a channel between your boundary and mother's boundary, by means of which you can exchange energy, you can exchange the charges, you can exchange you can collaborate. However, even this two complex cell together has to create something meaningful, which is valuable for the external world. Let's say you and your mother create a mother-son relationship. Then, with respect to this relationship, you need some energy. Whether your father is giving that money, your mother is giving that money, doesn't make any difference. Money belongs to no one. It belongs to the world. So you are taking some energy, eating food. Your mother is eating food. You both are doing certain things together. But if there is nothing which is coming out of this association, this mother son association, if there is nothing which is coming out of this association that is beneficial for the external world, then over a period of time the you stop getting the energy from the external world. This is simply the rule of this is simply the law. So if you think that the mother-son relationship is internal, there is nothing called eternal or spiritual internal. You have to understand that you are part of a larger system, and in that larger context of the system, anything which is taking energy from outside has to become meaningful for the outside world. There are two types of gains that you are giving to the outside world. Number one is a short-term gain, and number two is a long-term gain. But both the gains are important. You may take 100 units of energy, and which in the long term will be multiplied as 1000 unit. For example, when you will become 25 years old, you may become one of the top entrepreneurs of the world, mentored by your mother. For example, the way Edison was mentored by his mother, and he went on to become one of the top entrepreneurs in America. So after the age of 25, he became quite meaningful. That relationship became quite meaningful to the world. For example, Alexander's mother Olympias mentored Alexander from a very basic childhood. She arranged a lot of tutors for Alexander. Aristotle, one of the top intellect, was the teacher of Alexander. She arranged a lot of female companies for the Alexander in order for him to understand the female company. She arranged him to go to warfare accompanied by his father, and so that relationship of Olympias and Alexander became meaningful when Alexander started conquering the world. However, Alexander, even in his early childhood, was quite smart. He used to accompany his father, he used to build the logistic system in the war, and Alexander's father, Philip, was one of the topmost war strategists the world had seen. So the relationship of Alexander and Olympias was meaningful even while Alexander was very small, because you in the long term may become beneficial to the world or may not become beneficial to the world. The world needs certain proof that you would become beneficial to the world in the long run. Now, therefore, you have to create something meaningful which is not very big, which should not be very big, because then you have no future prospect. If you have something quite big at this moment, that is not going to be bigger in the future, right? However, you have to return something to the world, however small it is, for the world to have the confidence that you must be kept on supplying with the energy. There must be proof that you are functioning. Your mother is functioning. There must be ample of proof, because let's say the external world doesn't know whether you are having certain kind of physical or mental problem. Your mother have certain kind of physical and mental problem. What kind of relationship you share, whether you quarrel, whether she gives you love, nobody cares. If everything is fine, then you will give something meaningful to the world. You may be writing small poetries. Your mother may be teaching other children, learning from you. There must be something. If your relationship is functional, then that will produce something meaningful to the external world. That's how any system works. If a school is meaningful, if a school is well functional, it will produce students who will go out and become meaningful to the society. If a government office is functional, then it will be extremely efficient in terms of managing the resources and administration management. Any relationship that is functional will result in outcome that can be observed by the external world. If the government is functional, then a country's economy will grow, a country's employment will grow, a country's foreign reserve will grow. So these are the proof, these are the outputs of a functional government. And if the government is not functional, corrupt government, busy in infighting, the country's economy will fall, the country's employment will fall, country's foreign direct reserve will fall, country's foreign relationship will get so, the country may get involved in several international conflicts. So, how something works depends upon what it gives to the external world and the meaning and the value of that something, of the output. So, if a relationship doesn't have any output, then there exists no relationship. Understand? If a relationship doesn't have any output, then that relationship doesn't exist. Let me repeat, if a relationship doesn't have any output, then that relationship doesn't exist. Because we also already know that relationships are also like engines and machines. which takes your energy and your partner's energy. It may be any relationship again, and utilizes that energy to produce something. So nobody cares how that relationship is functioning internally as long as there is an output. That is the reason, because you as a person is expected to take energy, utilize part of that and produce something more valuable than amount of energy you are consuming. And the same expectation is being done from your relationship also. The same expectation is done from your startup company also. The same expectation is done from school, college, any system. Therefore, a relationship in itself is a system, and all the laws and the rules that are applied to the other systems are applicable to the relationship also. Therefore, a relationship, let's say two-person connects this relationship, both of you should have your boundaries, and then there should be an external wall, there should be an external boundary to that relationship. Together you will function, produce something and give it to the external world. The external world should not have any sort of interference within that boundary. Now, we understand the physical boundary. Now let's talk about a husband and wife relationship. When you and your partner, assuming the fact that you are a female student of this video, you and your partner, the male partner, are sleeping together. Let's say that you do not have any physical boundaries and traces. You are embracing each other and sleeping. You would not allow anybody else to come and sleep in between you, would you? That's a boundary you created, physical boundary. That when you are together it's like two bodies and one entity. And you are not allowing anybody to come from outside. A simple physical boundary, a simple rule that yes, we are together, we are cuddling each other, we are embracing each other, we have removed the boundary, physical boundary of each other. Now, when you both come together, then there is a boundary. Nobody else can come and sleep with you. So that's at least what is expected. Now, this is a physical boundary which is quite easy for us to understand. What is where we go wrong is that just like every other system in the world, like a relationship is not physical. It's a superficial entity. It's a conceived entity. There is nothing called a relationship. There exists no strings. There exists nothing. These are based on certain protocols. Any relationship, a client, teacher student, client provider, any relationship. So there is no hardcore rule. For example, your dress is connected with it's put over your body and you can feel that, you can see that, you can sense that. A relationship is something which you are not able to physically realize. You can know that other person exists, but that relationship you cannot conceive physically. That is where the problem with the boundary in the relationship happens. Now that you understand that relationship is an entity and any entity should function internally and must have a wall and should have a protocol of what to allow and what not to allow, what to let go and what not to let go. Let us now understand how to conceive these boundaries mentally. So, the relationship has three entities: you, your partner, and both of you. Let me repeat. The relationship has three entities: you, your partner, and both of you. You must have a complete boundary. What is that complete boundary? Number one, when you are working, your partner is not going to disturb you. When your partner is working, you are not going to disturb your partner. When you are uh, bathing, your partner must not disturb you unless and until, of course, needless to say, when your partner is bathing, you are not going to go in unless and until. When you are studying, you are gaining knowledge, your partner is not supposed to disturb you. When she is gaining knowledge, you are not supposed to disturb her. When you are with your friends exchanging social interaction, your partner is not supposed to be part of that. When she is doing her social interaction, you must not be part of that. Your devices, mobile and laptop, in no way must be given to the partner. So you have to be very, very specific to it, that do not look into anybody's mobile. There is no such thing called trust or all. If you open the pants, everybody's backside will have dirt. Everybody's bottom will be dirty. Alright. So each individual, whomsoever functions, will produce things which are to be excreted. When you take food, that is to be excreted, and it is to be excreted from the bottom. Whenever you function socially, you are consuming some energy which is to be excreted, and excreted from the bottom itself. And in any functionality, there is always an excretory product. In your relationship also, there will be excretory product. Whenever you create anything meaningful, there will be reminiscence. Please understand this fundamental. Any industry which produces something do also have industrial waste. Any relationship which produces something meaningful to the world will have relationship waste. Any individual who is meaningful to the society will have social waste. Any individual who is meaningful to the intellectual society will have an intellectual waste, because after consuming the energy, you cannot convert equal amount of energy to equal amount of value. You are expected to produce much more value. And so after eating the food, you will have food waste, the excretion. You have to go to toilet in the morning and you have to eliminate that. Now, just the way that you keep your bathroom separate, toilet separate, and you don't want to see how your partner is shitting. You don't want your partner to see how you are shitting, because it's quite obvious. The same way, you will have reminiscence. If you are meaningful to the world, you will have your waste. This is given. So, if you allow somebody to look into your bottom, one will always find dirt in it. Alright? So, somebody has to understand that there will be dirt in a person, there will be excretory waste in a person, because if there is no excretory waste, it means that the person is not eating, he is not getting any energy. That has only two relevance. Either the world doesn't care about you to supply you energy, and the second, you're just not producing anything. So you are also not producing any waste. So, coming back, your relationship is an entity. You already know what is the physical boundary. Mentally, you have to look into it as an entity. There are three components: you, your partner, and both of you together. So, when you are going out in the social interaction, you may have your friends, girlfriends, whomsoever, and you will have some waste. Therefore, your devices, your laptop, and all the other accessories are to be cleaned, and you have to tell your partner very clearly that, look, anything which is meaningful, anything that creates something meaningful will have waste. There is nothing to be hidden about. If you are going out, you may kiss a girl. There is nothing wrong in it. This is natural. Either you don't go out, or you go out. Wherever you go out and do something meaningful, you will have your moments. Some friends will share a very intimate joke with you, some not intimate, a very funny joke with you, a very sexual joke with you. Now, if somebody has an access to your mobile device, one would be always looking for the trace of the shit. And you, by the law, one who doesn't have any shit has not eaten and has not produced anything meaningful. It is so simple. Anything who has produced something meaningful will always have the shit. So, just like your toilet, you have to enclose all the sources of this shit and prevent your partner. And if your partner doesn't stop, then you have to get rid of that partner. That relationship is dysfunctional. Because if anybody tells you that you cannot have shit, so essentially one is suggesting that you must have a constipation. Anyone who is suggesting that you must have a constipation should not be part of your life. That's not natural. So what is a boundary? You are functional individually, your partner is functional individually. You are not accessing her mobile, her laptop device. You don't care where she is. It's a time, and she must never share that she is going from this place to that place. She is doing this. You should have no concern. You must completely tell yourself that I have no business knowing what she is doing, the way she should have no business in knowing what I am doing. Because if you remove those boundaries and if you keep telling, I have gone here, I have gone there, she is telling I have gone here, gone there, then there is no boundary between you and her, then it doesn't function. It doesn't function. Two individuals cannot become one. Biologically, we are multi-cell organism. All the cells doesn't become a single cell. All the cells are separate and then they have a channel through which they interact. So then you are functioning completely individually, your partner is functioning completely individually. You decide which are the person to allow into your life, which are the person not to allow into your life, and then you have a me time, both of you together. In that time, you are exchanging your energy. How? You are sharing the story that you have accumulated throughout the day. She is giving you her story. She has accumulated in the day. It is not your responsibility to do there is no responsibility for the relationship. You both are living the relationship. Alright. So she has to gain her energy, her emotions, her feelings. You have to gain your energy, your emotions, your feeling. Then part of that you will exchange. You may go out together. You may spend some time together, share some time together. But if you are all the time together, then by definition of the law, it doesn't work. It doesn't work. Because our eyes plays a different role than our mouth. Imagine that your human body is just one cell, then it will be like a single cell, it cannot function. Your eyes cannot do the role of the mouth. So, even in a relationship, you are a different cell. Your partner is a different cell. You are expected to work differently. Your partner is expected to function individually. And then both of you will have to decide at what instances, which are the things that you are going to share, what is the energy that you are going to share, you are going to create in the short term. You can create a story, you can create a shared memory, you can create anything in the short term, and then there should be something that you should create in the long term. Without this, the relationship doesn't work. And when you both are together, when you are functioning, just like when you are sleeping, you don't allow anybody else. Same way, In that relationship, whether you are together or not, you are not allowing anybody else to enter. For example, your mother should have no business in knowing what is going on inside that. If you are doing that, if you are telling somebody how your relationship is going, and if you are allowing the external people to ask what it is going, what is going on in your relationship, when you are going to get married, when you are going to have child, then you have to stop them right there. You have to say, this is subject to our internal functioning. Please stay away. That's it. Simple. You don't allow anyone to question what is going on in your life. That is your internal world. Nobody can ask you where you are working, what is your future plan. No. People should be interested in seeing the output. Nobody has a business in understanding your internal processes. No. You are not going to allow people to ask you to strip and walk naked on the street, would you? No. The same way, you are not going to strip your emotions, energy, memory, and feelings before the world. Nobody can ask, please strip all your plans before me. You can't strip. There is something called a boundary. So you have to separate the external world. And then if somebody is meaningful, you have to decide what you are going to create with that person. If you are not going to create something meaningful in the short term and in the long term, that relationship is dead. That is dead, whether it is your father, it is your partner, it is your mother. If both of you are not creating something meaningful in the short term and in the long term, by the definition, it doesn't work. So anything which is not working, you have to bring it back into working by functioning completely individually. Just think of a cell and start functioning like a cell. Then you have to ask your partner also to function individually, just like a cell. And then both of you develop a protocol how you are going to exchange energy. Sometimes you are going to spend going out. Sometimes you may be spending time working in the kitchen. But this has to be predefined. Understand, there is no such thing called spontaneity. Those things, randomness, do not work. You have to become very, 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 very focused with your relationship. You have to become extremely focused with the laws, rules, and protocols in your relationship, because your relationship is an entity. Understand, it is not to be lived by spontaneity. It has to be well defined, because this is a system. The external world expects you to produce something which is extremely meaningful for the external world, something short in the short term and something long in the long term. So, to summarize, you are going to function separately, separate mobile device, separate time, separate study time, and no disturbance from your partner. If possible, go out and have a physical boundary also. Then your partner must also be going out, arrange for her food. Remember, in this world, nobody has a responsibility to feed anyone. That's pretty indecent, That's pretty much out of the question. You must arrange your food, your partner must arrange her food. She must get her energy, you must get your energy. You must get your feelings, she must have her feelings. Her feelings is not your responsibility, she has to bring that to table. You must have your emotion, that is story, experiences, thought. She must have her own emotion, and then you both together will spend some time where you will be investing your energy, she will be investing her energy, so that both of you can combine that energy to create something meaningful. You can create a business together, you can create a song together. If you are a composer, your wife, your partner is a singer, you can create a Song together. But there is something that is to be created. If you are eating food and doing nothing, you are meaningless for the world, and by the default rule, you will die. Your genes will kill you. Same thing happens for this system. If a startup keeps raising fund and doesn't produce anything meaningful, the startup dies. The world doesn't care how much money is lost. It is better to lose $100 million than to lose $1 trillion. So the world sees in this way. Therefore, you have to function individually. Your partner has to function individually. And then you have to decide, this is very important, protocol. What you are going to share, which type of stories, which type of knowledge, which type of energy you are going to what you are going to immediately produce out of that conversation, and what you are going to produce in the long term, 10 years down the line, 20 years down the line, 5 years down the line. You do not have that. You think it is spontaneous relationship with that. The last important aspect is, because your relationship in itself is an entity, just the way you do not permit everybody to strip you, you are not going to permit your brain to be stripped out by anyone. Anyone ask, anyone, here it is anyone, parents. If they ask, what is your future plan? None of your business. It is my internal world. So you have to decide what way you are going to share what knowledge with your parent. That has to be decided. That father, I want your wisdom. Can I share my struggle with you, behalf of which you can give me wisdom? That's all. Then you are sharing only your struggle with your father. Your father is giving you wisdom. Mother, can I tell you my small stories, and can you correlate your stories and give me some good feelings? That's it. You share some short stories and she tells you some short stories. That's all. She's not going to ask who is your girlfriend. She's not going to ask when you are going to get married. Your father is not going to ask you what is your plan for the future. Now, if they do, then you are boundaryless, you are naked, you are stripped. If people roams around naked in this society, they will be considered as crazy, and they'll be taken to mental asylum by the society. Same way, if you allow others to enter into your internal space, you'll be considered as crazy and you'll be sent to mental asylum. If you don't function by the rule, your relationship also doesn't function. If your relationship is not functioning, understand it is you who are dysfunctional. Look into your boundaries, your relationship boundaries, and make the relationship more meaningful. That's all for this class and this session and this episode. I hope that you understood the concept. You can repeat, you can take down notes, you can try to correlate from your life. Always remember, there is no shortcut to life. You have to learn, you have to correlate. It's very important. That's all for today. Have a great weekend. And yes, the book Intimacy Lost for Men, its Kindle edition has been released in Amazon. You can find that in the description below and in the first comment. Also, the paperback is going to come in the Amazon shortly. The paperback from Amazon will be a little bit costly. So you can also order your paperback from us directly. We are also printing that. The description to the link is also there. Also, we have released our promo video for Intimacy Lost. You can watch that video. That's all for today. Happy weekend. Please make your relationship meaningful. See you again. Thank you for your time, energy, emotion, and the relationship, and all the values that you are creating in my life. Thank you very much.